So about $2 million got locked in all of our strategies. And then there was this member of our community who was a security engineer, like a really, I mean, I don't want to dox him, but a pretty decorated security engineer. We were literally in a call with him for 8 hours trying to prove out and test a recovery strategy, and it ended up working, and we wrote a smart contract to essentially flash loan all the funds out of the contract and redistribute them to everyone. So that was quite the journey.
GM everyone, my name is DeGatchi, your host of Scraping Bits, and I'm here today with Bebis. How's it going?
What's up? It's going good. I'm taking my supplements, as I do for some reason every time I have a podcast, but
it's the ritual.
Going great, drinking a delicious Paca vanilla coffee out of a can. So we're really living our best life over here.
Damn right. I think we should just do like a quick introduction of basically who you are and what you do.
Sure. I am Justin Bebis. I run companies mostly in the DeFi space. I do a lot of team building. I do some programming, do some project management, do some marketing, do some writing. I just kind of try to cover all bases. And I just try to absorb talent and turn it toward, I guess, the greater good. If the greater good is making cool products. But
And yeah, I think it's really interesting, your kind of career. I think I followed you I've known of you for quite some time in Fantom, maybe for like a year plus or however long I've been in it as well. But basically you started with Reaper, right? And then you kind of just expanded. So yeah, how did you get into building like Reaper and basically teams?
Yeah, I mean, I started like before Reaper, I started as a mentor. So I saw a really big opportunity in early 2020 to become an Ethereum security engineer. I studied the living hell out of Solidity and ETHSEC. And then in July to September 2020, I started kind of like a study group where I just taught a bunch of people in my network. Because at this time I was floating around Discords, trying to learn everything I could, buying DeFi coins, getting excited, reading code. I was basically trying to be the guy that could, go into a project, learn all about it, read the code, and tell people whether it was a scam. And I met a lot of really cool people that way. Some people that mentored me, some people I mentored. And I mean, for 7, 8, 9 months, I had this little group of, some were trying to be programmers, some were trying to be security engineers, some were trying to be marketing guys, some were just trying to buy and sell shit coins. But we were all really excited about the space, and that whole time I was really into Fantom, the Fantom network. My whole strategy was like, I'm going to put a lot of my money into Fantom, and to hedge my bet, I'm going to be the absolute best engineer I can be and really learn Solidity like the back of my hand. From there, like in April or May of 2021, apps started releasing earlier that year on Fantom, and we were like, well, damn, I guess this is our time. We had been sitting around waiting for some exciting stuff to happen. So we got in our underpants, and over the course of 3 weeks, totally from scratch, we built Reaper.farm, of course, using Yearn's famous V1 vaults. But the front end, everything, we were like, we're going to have this cool bespoke application. And at the time, like, we were pretty well advanced. Like, we were doing stuff in the smart contracts. If you look at my blog, like the very first post was, about high performance blockchains and what cool stuff you can do. And really all we did was add some extra state so that we can track users' profits. And it was like kind of buggy. But, Fantom didn't have a subgraph at the time. And even overall, like, data in DeFi was crap. And people noticed that pretty quickly, that we were able to track profits. And, we started growing an audience. And, I guess there were a few different reasons we were successful. The least of which certainly not being that we were very early on into the life cycle.
Yeah.
But yeah, just building trust, trying to make secure software, and bringing aligned people along the way, along the journey.
Yeah, for sure.
And now we're here.
Yeah, so you started with mentoring, right? And then you kind of just made a lot of friends along the way, and then you just basically brought them all into Reaper, or how did you get these initial people into Reaper?
Well, yeah, the two people, I mean, I'm way too schizo to just let people I met on the internet into Reaper. The two people, I basically marched through, like, at this point, I had been mentoring for like 6 months or whatever. Right. And this was in January. I basically polled every single, like, friend group I was in that I either knew multiple people in real life or that, like, they were longtime friends. And I found another cybersecurity guy. He was into crypto. He didn't know Solidity, and he had kind of like cooled off it in 2017. But he used to program like mining ASICs. This is Goober. If you're familiar, he's heads off our security. But I yanked him along. I was like, dude, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. This is awesome. I need programmers that I trust so that we can like build this thing. And doing like an auto compounding service was his idea.
Oh, right.
Like we were originally going to do like some crazy, like, options, like treasury launchpad type thing. Different. Yeah. And then we were like the purpose originally was, okay, we're going to create a secure platform that teams can launch products on. Yeah. And essentially like, create an insurance fund and create a treasury and create, tokenomics, vesting structure, whatever. We were like, bruh, that's going to be really hard to do right. And him being the pragmatic one, or whatever the word is, was like, hey, we should just auto compound Spooky Swap, and we can do that probably in less than a month. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. And then the Crow, if you're familiar with our roster, he's the one who built the Ethos Reserve front end. He built the Reaper front end, but he was working at like some big company doing React. And if you've ever programmed at a big company, it's like soul crushing. So I was like, dude, just do this. And at the time, like, everybody's lives were subsidized because if you lost your job, then you just get, I forget what it was called, like the unemployment benefits or whatever were insane. Yeah. So we were all just like, F it, we're going to go ham.
The unemployment benefits.
And we did it. Yeah, like subsidized by unemployment. We were making no money. But I taught them January, February. I pulled them into the Kernel OX fellowship round 1 or round 2. I was in one of the early rounds for Kernel OX. I pulled them in. We got a lot of connections. They learned about crypto.
Yeah, what was the Kernel OX kind of thing? What was that?
Yeah, that was the first blockchain fellowship, at least the first blockchain fellowship that I was aware of, where essentially they started in late 2020. Right. This is through Gitcoin. So Gitcoin's Kernel OX fellowship, it's essentially like they bring a bunch of smart, talented people. I don't know how they picked me, but just kidding. They bring a bunch of people in, and then I got to talk to people like Kanav of Jump. I got to talk to Robert Leshner. I got to talk to Taylor, the MetaMask lady who used to work for that other wallet. And, I just like sit at air tables with them or whatever they're called, like the air meet.
Little just like network
and chat out a bunch of stuff. Yeah. And that was like my first introduction to the business side of the industry. And the funny thing was, like, I was one of very few Solidity programmers there. At the time, nobody knew Solidity. Like, and I had been, autistic about it for like 8 months at that point. So I was able to like really stand out. A lot of people tried to hire me, and I was like, no, I want to do my own thing. And I did, and it's been pretty successful. I think it's definitely everything I could have dreamed of. We definitely took the hard route, but I'm glad where we ended up.
Yeah, the route of like most resistance is usually the one you want to take, especially when you have the resources and the opportunity as well. I think to even take the opportunity and taking risks is is an important thing to do, because if you're not going to take risks early and you're not going to try and, grab the opportunity, then you're not going to have the opportunity again in the future, or maybe you will, but that's also, a chance and a dice roll. So I think it's
definitely
a terrific thing you've done, and you've done it really well, but you have had some struggles doing it as well. I remember there was a hack or an exploit on one of the pools.
Yeah, we've had two.
Oh. How was that? How did you even recover from that? Because not a lot of people get
Well,
to experience.
the first one, we were able to white hat the funds back out, and it wasn't an exploit. It was we had been working for 36 hours straight, and in deleting a console log, because at the time, if you remember back in the day, like in hard hat, like one of the only ways to test efficiently was just using their console log. They were like, their big thing was, oh, we created console log for Solidity, and everybody was soy face at it. So we deleted a console log and accidentally deleted a line of code that was vital in accounting for some Scream leverage strategies. This was September 2021. And so about $2 million got locked in all of our strategies. And then, there was this member of our community who was a security engineer, like a really, really, I mean, I don't want to dox him, but a pretty decorated security engineer. We were literally in a call with him for 8 hours trying to prove out and test a recovery strategy. And it ended up working. And we wrote a smart contract to essentially flash loan all the funds out of the contract and redistribute them to everyone.
Oh,
wow. So that was quite the journey. That's for the OGs. That was like, if you look at my Medium, there's like a postmortem in September, and then there's a pre-Vita, quote unquote. You can see the creative well that I had to tap to come up with that. But yeah, we were able to save all those, and it was a roaring victory, very, very exciting. And then the hack that I'm sure you're talking about, August 1st of 2022, we had just shipped, or we had just pushed from beta to the main site our multi-strategy vaults. And at this point, they had been in beta for like over a month. They had been on the pain.finance website. There had been a ton of code reviews. Later we would go back and we would investigate every single, turn of events that led up to the situation. And, there was a lot of overwork. There was a lot of not much sleeping. There was a lot of stress of this, that, the other. So definitely we've changed up how we handle workload and prioritization since then. But it was really, it was exactly the sort of thing that would get like a security focused team. It was like an access control issue on the ERC 4626 interface. And, the funny thing is, while after the fact we were going crazy, like figuring out every single point by point that led to that, like we realized the ERC 4626 specification was like insane. It was like, there were two competing specifications at the time. Neither of them really suited our needs, and it was deceivingly difficult to implement. And at that point we were like, okay, we're too busy focused on implementation. We're too busy focused on, pushing product out. We need to take a pause and we need to focus on DevOps for a while, focus on infrastructure for a while. We need to quit like listening to the community and shipping product nonstop, because at the time, like the market was nothing. Like DeFi products made no money. Really our goal was, it was at this point, it was like, okay, we need to remain relevant. And the way we remain relevant is we keep pushing the needle. And so unfortunately that, the thing that sucks is after the fact, so we pay back like most of the users by number of users. Of course, you have all the biggest users that I'm in the DMs of, like saying, okay, we're going to, try to recapitalize you. We've got this, that, the other in the works. Please don't, threaten us and kill us. And then there was the actual investigation side. And like, we had a secret service contact. I'm not going to get too far into it, but, it's like we were like the thing that's most annoying is like we were getting led on by a bunch of enforcement agencies. Like we were trying to, make it work,
Take action.
and we know where the funds went. They went out of 2 centralized exchanges, like really
Oh,
small
right.
ones that you see
Yeah.
people off ramp all the time. But we could not get a subpoena. And the reason why we couldn't get a subpoena is because we had paid everybody back. Because the only way, and this is so stupid. I mean, I guess it's not that stupid, but the only way that we could have gotten a subpoena is if we had organized a class action, and any incentive to organize a class action was gone because everybody had gotten their money back. So we definitely learned a lot. We don't really push out anything that is even like, yellow risk without an audit. At this point, it pisses users off, but we focus on DevOps. We focus on like the breadth of or not the breadth, but the depth of our releases as opposed to the breadth. And it's been working well so far. I think our engineers are more relaxed. They do more code review. Now than they do implementation. So, yeah, I mean, I could go on about that forever and ever, but it was a very definitely traumatic experience, and recovering from it was probably the most difficult thing I've ever done, at least in my life.
I think not a lot of people get to experience a hack where millions are involved and not being able to recover, right? You have to take it out of your own pocket and kind of rebuild your whole reputation again and try not to be that, like have a reputation of being hacked and nobody wants to use you. Like people still use you now. After
I mean,
done well.
Since day one, we've been a security focused organization. We've been an engineering focused organization. I mean, it is like an embarrassing hit to the rep. But at the end of the day, like, we hire for trust, we hire for security acuity, and then if those bases are covered, we just teach engineers solidity. So really like the whole team was so embarrassed, and I was like, guys, I'm gonna try. We're gonna insulate you from this. We're going to re-engineer our processes. We're going to re-engineer how we evaluate risk. And, now we have a bunch of cool frameworks that help us keep the heat off and help us ship securely. But yeah, it's like cruising. Like at the time, we were going to be the first team to deploy Solidity multi-strategy vaults that are ERC 4626 compliant, which is like long term, who gives a shit, but in the absolute short term, it kind of matters, and now we're just like, okay, we have all of this collective autism in our organization. Why are we chasing after short term gain when we can easily just build for the future? And we have all this cool stuff we're working on, and really, I think what was most important to us, a lot of people recommended at the time that we just close up shop and move on to the next thing. And we were like, I mean, anytime a business is in absolute distress, you're going to have a whole school of people that is like, okay, why would you pay this back instead of just closing up shop? Or why would you, go through the pain and agony of trying to keep the ship afloat when the industry standard is like, just fold it up and move on to the next thing. And I think like, this is more than like our development work, our engineering work, our work in general is just so much more than a business. And, our response, our gut response generally was like, we don't want that to be the standard. And, we want to be able to hold our heads high, even if it's like painful and difficult. So now we're at a point, I think, where we're in a much better place. I think there's still a lot of reputation that needs to be restored. But I mean, coming from Fantom, it's like, you talk to engineers on other chains, a lot of them don't like Fantom. Fantom kind of ate a bunch of people's lunch. in 2021 and 2022. It like grew rapidly,
Oh yeah.
totally like almost a completely anon culture. It was really like, a dream environment.
Yeah. It was insane back then. But I don't know how
And
it's doing really now. But
yeah, and
yeah.
and now like, people have so many reasons to be not that friendly toward Fantom projects. And
hmm
we've been battling against that in addition to kind of the exploit on our record. But really, like, at the end of the day, it's like we've been building for over 2 years in a space where the half-life of a project is what, like 3 months or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, it's incredible that you've come back, and I think you've become much stronger as a company because of that. Like most companies would just fall under and move into the next thing, basically stop Twitter and make a new anon.
Yeah.
But you've kept it on. You're trying to, and I think that shows that you're really here for the long run, and it should be trusted in that way. Obviously, it takes time and what's the word for it? Like more products to come out that are safe to get
Yeah.
complete.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
gotta develop like some austerity. You need some battle testing. You need like,
yeah,
you need to reseason the pan. It's like, we threw our
exactly.
nice cast iron pan in the dishwasher, and now we just gotta to cook again. But
Yeah, exactly.
we're
But
doing a lot of cooking. Since then, our like white label engineering, the white label engineering side of our business has been going really well,
mhm,
and it's been able to, like, fund a lot of the things we're doing. And the I would say in our portfolio right now of technology,
mhm,
like, we have multiple things, either unannounced or undocumented in
mhm,
public, that are way ahead of where the industry is at right now. And
mhm.
it's like, we always lose the marketing battle because it's like we don't invest in marketing at all.
Yeah.
And so, like, you talk to the average user, you're like, how do you feel about the Oath ecosystem? And they're like, man, fuck those guys. They stink, they smell, they're ugly. I mean, we have a lot of positivity, but it's like, all we know how to do really better than anything is build and be honest. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know, our goal is just, we get so far ahead of the curve tech wise, that people will just develop good feelings toward us. So
Mhm.
that's maybe
Yeah,
not the
yeah.
best strategy in the world. That's like, you talk to a PR guy and you're like, hey, does that sound smart? And he's like, wow, you really are dumb as rocks. But it's the
But eventually
plan.
you'll start investing in marketing and stuff to get people to know your stuff.
Yeah.
And once you already have the product established, then marketing becomes so much easier instead of just going off, you know, a wish or like I guess something, oh yeah, we're building this, but it
Yeah.
might not be ready for a couple months. So be
Yeah.
prepared.
Well, we did
But
that
marketing is
too.
required. Oh, okay.
I mean, it's like a constant. Nobody has the patience to wait. I mean, nobody that's really vocal and involved. Like, all the people on crypto Twitter, most of them either don't have jobs or they have really boring jobs that they can just be on Twitter all day. So,
hmm
you need to kind of let them know what they're waiting for. Otherwise, they get antsy. It's like ethos.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, we launch in beta. We have this really cool tech. It operates really well, but I mean, we still have probably like 3 to 6 months of work to go before it's like an industry leader.
hmm
And communicating that is a big challenge. It's like, hey, sorry, we didn't, fork, whatever, do the easiest thing possible. It's going to take a
Yeah,
while.
you're trying to innovate, right? And that takes time.
Yeah,
You got to do a lot of research and battle testing, unit tests, refactoring, all that
yeah,
stuff, constant audits
the
and
boring
optimizations.
stuff, the boring
Yeah, the
stuff.
things people don't want to hear about, right? Or
Yeah.
even do.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, definitely. They don't love doing that. I've the Chat GPT-4 or the GPT-4 audits
Oh yeah, man, that's
tickling my fancy now. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, I think, as ridiculous as this industry is, I think it's still a lot of fun, and I do
mhm.
like it. Like, everybody can pretend, oh, I don't care what the sheeple think, but I really do, and I think our goal is always to dazzle and excite users, and everything is so tribal. It's like the most rewarding thing is getting people to move to your tribe or get excited about what you're working on. And once you accept the fact that everybody's just a troll, and like the level of sincerity is down on the floor, it's just like it's just noise, and it's fun. It's fun to build among the noise. It's like selling hot dogs in a cart or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's important that you innovate as well, because the whole goal is to push the space forward and not just copy each other and not really contribute too much, instead of doing like a cash grab or another Ponzi. It's like the whole goal is to make the world use basically crypto, right? And to get it adopted, and the only way you can do that is by innovating. So it's very important to do that. But I do want to touch on basically how you started to build your team and really acquire the right people and basically filter out the wrong.
I mean, just like when we started growing, we grew pretty fast. At the time, this was peak bull market, late 2021. We needed help. And this was basically after that thing I told you about earlier where we rescued the funds in Scream. Like, we were not sleeping. We were living, like me and Goober, our other Solidity engineer, were living in an Airbnb. We were like in physical agony. We were like gaining weight, and we were just like working. And we, at that point, like the idea of hiring people was foreign to us. We kind of talked about it, but it was like, how do you trust people with these like high impact operations, these high security operations? And, how do you build a business when, a single OPSEC failure can cost users their livelihoods? That was kind of the mindset going into it. And it was like, we didn't have VC funding, we were totally revenue driven. For some reason, well, I mean, the reason was obvious. We didn't want to release any tokens at peak hysteria because we, thought it was dangerous. We were like, okay, the markets are going literally bonko nutso crazy. We're going to just be revenue driven until things, calm down a little bit. And, that's the way we did things. So we didn't have like a huge war chest. It was like we needed to do stuff month to month. And, what we did was, at this time, I had been building up like social clout, not really intentionally, but I was on the podcast all the time. People followed me. And, being a vocally autistic man, I was, there were a lot of engineers that followed me, a lot of developers, a lot of people with similar passions and points of view, being we need to do the right thing, not the easy thing. We need to do the right thing, not the profitable thing. And also DeFi is dope, and it's going to, go 1 billion X to the moon, super epic win. So, we put out the word. We're like, hey, we're hiring, and got a shit ton of applicants, like an insane amount. And really at that point, we said we were hiring for an apprenticeship, because basically we were like, anybody we hire, we're not going to hire them for their Solidity chops, because one, most of the people saying they have Solidity chops don't, because good Solidity engineers, they needed to have started a year ago. And, who was starting a year ago? It was like me and like 30 other guys. So we were hiring based on willingness to learn, willingness to docs, and eventually sign paper. So that was kind of out of left field, I think. A willingness to put your name and your personhood on the line. Experience with JavaScript, not with Solidity, because in our mind, Solidity is easy. What's hard is unit testing. What's hard is running simulations. What's hard is building out DevOps. So we hired mainly on JavaScript and familiarity with Solidity, because
Okay.
I had taught Solidity to a bunch of people, easy peasy. And then we hire based on like values and morals and personality. And, we ended up, in my opinion, with what is now probably, and this is after like a really significant headcount reduction in September, late August, September, right after the exploit.
Mm-hmm.
I think right now we have the best engineering firm in the space, easily. And due to NDAs, I can't like really rattle off, list of accomplishments. But I would say the crew we're working with at this point, everybody is senior. Everybody is doing things that are in their own right. Like anybody's individual work item could be spun up as a startup and sold as an SaaS product. Because we're focused on infrastructure, we're focused on DevOps. The strategies and things like. That's like, now that we've done all of the hard work, we're going to do the Solidity implementation and make some strategies, which is easy and fun. And it's just a lot of review and a lot of, security analysis. So, I mean, I guess, how we built our team, I would say one, focused on values and focused on the hard stuff and a willingness to learn as opposed to any individual skill set. And I think that worked out fabulously. Like we've had the same team. We have zero turnover. We've had the same exact team since our first round of hiring, and sadly, even the market crashed. Everybody took a huge pay cut, and nobody left. Nobody even wanted to leave, and we built a culture of excellence. We built a culture of service to our workers and to our employees. Like, I tell them, I am literally here to make your life better. I exist as Justin Bebis. My life doesn't matter. I'll, get whipped and tarred and feathered and do whatever I need to do to make sure that we can accomplish the mission being, we're going to securely innovate this space, whether they like it or not. We're going to take them by their ear and we're going to throw them into the future. And we're going to do all the R&D necessary to do so. So that commitment has come and gone both ways. And I mean, really, like every single month we have an all staff, we have one-on-one meetings every quarter, we're constantly communicating with the team. We're constantly making sure everyone is aligned, and we're giving them the tools they need to succeed. And, we help them through personal issues. We help them through anything that you can imagine. We give them access to resources. And it's just, I guess that's how you build a team. And I would say the biggest like mistake that we made, which is probably useful to people listening, is we hired based on like an immature view of the crypto market. So we were like, okay, let's Google how to staff a software company. And it was like, okay, you take the amount of revenue you're making. Okay, you spend this amount on revenue. Or we totally boilerplate with it. This was like, back when, we were like, okay, we'll spend 20 minutes on this. And, since then, like my focus, when I moved from engineer to CEO, my focus has been, I mean, not as much growth management now, but it's really like, team management, how can we develop trading, acuities and things like that, where, we can look forward at market catalysts and plan based on those. We can grow our team. We can make sure we have like long-term contracts in place before we grow our team. We can make sure that we have, really accurate projections of revenue. We make sure we know how much shit costs to make, and know where we need to slim down and where we need to fatten up. It's really like, I miss just programming every day and designing software every day and going ham, but really I'm doing the same shit. It's just, instead of, fine tuning algorithms, I'm just fine tuning a company, which has way more variables than the average DeFi algorithm, So
managing you're basically wearing multiple hats now, and you shifted from engineer to basically CEO, and now you're basically managing a team instead of managing code. You're building a team instead of code. So
Yeah.
it's a different kind of engineering. And I guess, well, if you were to like redo all this, now that you have all this experience, what would you basically do to get to the point where you're at now, skipping all the extra difficulties and struggles?
Um, well, I think probably I would have tried to stay as absolutely lean as possible and as off
Mhm.
risk as possible. As we grew, I would have grown earlier. So basically,
Okay.
once we had this slightest whiff of product market fit, which would have
Mhm.
been probably around June, July 2021, I would have
Mhm.
started hiring. Um,
Okay.
I would have hired earlier, hired slower, and honestly, like the whole way. And keep in mind, like our bandwidth for actual management in 2021
Yeah.
was like zero. But if I had been able to go back and restructure everything and look at all of these growth catalysts and look at all of these inflection points, look at
Yeah.
all of our most popular products, our highest revenue products, I would have built everything around that.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I mean, I think just overall, we could have done things a lot more efficiently. We were like racing.
Mhm.
And the thing is, like, at the end of the day, like, how many projects that were founded or how many teams that were founded, projects, whatever, in early 2021 that are still around.
Yeah.
So
For
I
sure.
think we did okay, even with like, I mean, looking at now that I know way more than I'd like to know about fundraising and about corporate finance, we would have raised money way earlier. We would have released a
Right.
token way earlier. I think like a lot of the, values and whatever that drove decision making early on, we're definitely on the naive end of things, because it's like, you look back at who was the TVL of Fantom. You've got
Mhm.
Alameda, you've got Quantum FinTech, and
Mhm.
Alameda was probably using customer funds from FTX. And at the end of the day, like these guys' whole job, like they wanted something to sink money into, they needed something to sink money into.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really like I think the disservice, like maybe even the trajectory of Phantom would have changed if we had grown earlier and been able to get a better handle on things. Maybe we would have had
Mhm.
extra security engineers to throw Andre's way to help Solidly go better, because at the
Mm.
time, like if you recall, Solidly, like we were submitting bug
Yeah. Yeah.
reports, we were telling him like months before release, like, yo, bruh, this shit needs this shit needs to work, dude.
Yeah.
But the thing is, nobody could spare the resources to actually fix it top to bottom. And at the time, like
Mhm.
everybody in the industry was stretched so thin. And I feel like, not to take all the blame for everything in the whole world upon myself, but I think we know so much now as an organization, and we've become so much more
Yeah.
mature as an organization, even just in these 2 years,
Mhm.
that and hindsight, of course, is 2020. But a lot of the hiccups of the past, a lot of the misjudgments and things, we definitely would
Mhm.
have acted more efficiently. So yeah, I mean, really, like my job is just to as efficiently as possible produce technology and generate revenue. And yeah.
You did like, how did you raise capital really? I know you did some tokens. Did you ever do like VC stuff, or was it purely just public rounds?
Um, anything we do with VCs, you probably won't hear about for a while. Our main source of revenue is, we do development work, and in some cases, like facilitate legal work, facilitate accounting, back office, growth type management
So the whole
for,
shebang.
yeah, DeFi companies. And
Right.
we've worked on and worked with some, quite frankly, really large ones like 10 times bigger, 20 times bigger than we are. And, that right now, like you look at revenues in DeFi, you look at, where is DeFi in terms of product market fit? Revenues are down 95% or more.
Mhm.
But, and really, like, the only thing keeping the space alive is those VCs, those liquid funds that are essentially propping the industry up, waiting for the
Yeah.
next wave of liquidity, because they have so much invested. So development is still like at a premium. Like people still want the best tech, they want the best engineers, they want the highest security protocols. So that's really like where the money is. And I personally hate raising money. It's like the most annoying thing to do. It's like a peacock dance. It's like a funny,
Yeah.
whatever.
How do you like negotiate deals with VCs anyway? If like, yeah, basically equity versus value,
Yeah, I
whether you
mean,
really
right
need it or not.
now, the popular thing to do is a SAFE or a SAFT. So this is a fundraising structure that I personally hate, but this is all VCs want. And essentially, it's equity plus token warrant. So,
Okay,
what these companies get is they get a share in the company itself. So if the company is
right.
successful, then dope, great. And then
hmm
they get a token warrant, which means they get a share of the token supply. And now, what this means for most companies is they don't give a shit about the equity. The equity is
Yeah,
like a Hail Mary. The equity is like, okay, we're going to fund like the 20th best DeFi project in, Malaysia or whatever.
yeah,
We're going to give them a fat round. We're going to pump them full of money. We're probably going to structure it in a way that, some of that money will find its way back to our partner firms or whatever.
hmm
But we're going to fund as much marketing, as much hype, as much development as possible. And a lot of that development is
yeah,
just fluff. But we're going to essentially try to race to the biggest, boldest MVP ever, and then
yeah,
launch a token and regain our principal. So that
yeah.
essentially the equity portion of the deal is free. And that's what we
hmm
see everywhere, that like, we don't really mess around with that stuff. We help teams, of course, that do SAFs and do safes, because the thing is, like, at the end of the day, there's a huge demand for tokens. There's a huge demand for volatility. Like you think about, if you have a vested interest in a centralized exchange, what
hmm
is there better to do than pump up valuations really high so that the basis points you get on trading of the token and the volume of the token are equally high? You know what I mean?
hmm
Like the fundamental value of a project, and they do this on the stock exchange, they do this everywhere. But
hmm
the fundamental value of a product might be, hey, you look at the revenue, you look at the growth. We'll give this, a valuation of 5 million in an ideal world, and we see these projects get $50 million valuations, hundred
hmm
million dollar
Yeah,
valuations, $200 million valuations. I'm not going to, that number goes into the multiple billions.
yeah,
And the thing is, like, these VCs, these exchanges, these whoever need size. Like they can't invest, they can't invest in something like Oath,
yeah,
not that Oath is an investment, but they can't purchase the digital asset commodity known as Oath, which is used for governance and nothing else. Um,
hmm
uh, and, because it's like we're small potatoes. So those guys
yeah,
don't give a shit. So what they can do is you can take a project with, maybe worse tech, maybe a worse team, maybe whatever, it doesn't matter, pump it
hmm
up to 10 times the valuation, and now suddenly you put it onto an exchange, it's doing 10 times, 20, 30, 40, 50 times the volume at 10
hmm
times the size. And you have a vehicle for these organizations that want crypto exposure that can't invest in small potatoes. And
yeah, for
it's
sure.
really, yeah, it's kind of like a circle jerk, but
Yeah, it's kind of tragic in a way because it's all just for the money and not really pushing the space to the next level, right?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the
so
token warrants are like, Pantera helped invest those. It's like,
mhm.
it is the vehicle of choice. It's like literally like a get rich quick scheme. Um,
Yeah, it like literally.
yeah. so
um, so I guess like when if like someone created a new startup and they didn't know if they needed to basically raise or not. Let's say they were doing it by themselves, making a tool or a project, and they
yeah.
had enough time to build this, right? When do you think they would even need to raise or get some kind of money to start expanding and get to the next stage?
If it's your first time, I would say raise ASAP. Like if it's your first time, you should be talking to VCs literally like the second you have a pitch deck together and the second you have an MVP. Waiting does not help. They do not care if you've been building it for a year or building it for 10 years. It does not matter. You know, they'll, especially if you don't have users, like if there's no fundamental value, if you don't have users, if you don't have money, then the only, like, they just don't give a shit. And all you need to do is focus on finding the absolute best partners. Because right now, like, you know, we one of our like crown jewels, which, you know, is something we don't talk about, but you know, of our firm, we have this project that we consider to be literally like, you know, a year or more ahead of the curve, and we've been building it for a year. And we've been building it in stealth. We're like, okay, we're going to build this. We're going to get as much technical weight as we can. We're going to have like a really killer product. And now it gives us an advantage because nobody else is able to do or is even close to being able to do what we can do with this. So it helps the pitch. But at the end of the day, it's like no VC is going to go in and read your code and care.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know? So
if
if you
there for the idea.
Yeah, like the benefit to us is now we can actually win the market and actually have a good product and be proud, you know. But at the end of the day, like, you know, if you have an MVP, they don't know the difference between, you know, a 500 line JavaScript file and a Create React app and a fully flagged scalable enterprise application. They unless you're operating in the like hundreds of millions of dollar range, they don't care. They're just like, oh, you know, hey, we're going to shotgun into this pre-seed project, cross our fingers, organize a SAFT with all of our, you know, exchange partners or whatever, and not really care what happens with the company.
Right.
So yeah,
and how do you like?
It's
Oh, continue.
Go ahead.
Okay, right, got you. And I guess a follow-up question to that is, how do you prepare and find these VCs? And once you find them, how do you really sell your idea to them in an efficient way?
Yeah. So the first thing you need to do is you need to find a business partner that knows VCs. You know, that's probably our biggest thing is like, I mean, at this point, we know a fair number. Yeah, it's literally just networking. It's like you need to. There's like, and here's a place. I mean, there are places where you can like just go to, and their whole purpose is VC networking. There's this place called Human from Web3. It's called their Twitter is @human from Web3 _. That is a company that they're designed exclusively to match founders and VCs because VC rich guys can't do everything. You know, they need to allocate their money somehow. And if you have become rich from being a founder, you know, you think that you're a genius and you can make anything work. And, you know, whether that's true or not, Web3 has produced a lot of those guys. And at a place like Human from Web3 will
So then how do you prepare for these guys to basically think your idea is good and are willing to invest?
Just develop a sales pitch and workshop it with all the smartest people you know, and then find someone like a VC or whatever who's willing to say, you know, actually that's shit, but I see the potential. Do this instead. And then you'll be like, oh wow, you're so smart. You're so amazing. Thank you for blessing me with your knowledge. And then after you blow smoke up their ass for a while, they'll share it with their friends. And you'll have around. Yeah, it's like, you know, there are a bunch of different tactics people use. Like people use shock tactics. You know, people use like stunts.
It's like a whole game.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the extreme alpha. You know, this is something that I can only say a small podcast like this. But, you know, if you want to get an idea of how to interact with VCs, the first thing you need to do is understand that they are literally just like us. And I mean that in kind of a bad way, in that a lot of investing is like showmanship and braggadocio. It's like when someone invests in you, they do it to win. So they're throwing the dice. Investing in startups, you're throwing the dice. Like markets are random. Finding product market fit is not necessarily random, but actually getting market share is relatively random. You know, there's a lot of luck involved, of course, a lot of networking and things like that. But essentially, like, you as a startup, your ultimate goal as far as the VC is concerned, and they'll pretend otherwise, but is to brag to their friends about how successful you are. And you know, you think of it kind of like how I call it the group chat economy. So essentially, you know, I'm sure you've been in group chats before, you know what they're like, you know, lots of parasocial relationships, you know, everybody's trying to impress everybody, everybody's trying to become friends, everybody's, you know, developing in-group culture, memes, whatever. VCs have the same shit, just with mostly other rich guys. And the poor guys in that group, those are the guys, when you hear someone called a kingmaker, those are the guys that are just in those groups, but don't have money. You know, it's like, like the best networking guys ever. They were like funny enough or knew someone and got in those group chats and can make introductions. And that's like, you know, part of the value they provide. But it's really like you need to think of VCs like bored rich guys, because they are. And how do you entertain a bored rich guy who's obsessed with finance? You make numbers go up. You make him money, you know. And there are some exceptions, of course, like the big firms, the really reputable firms, you know, as a whole, they're not that way. But each individual portfolio manager, each investor, each partner is that way a little bit. And the absolute best have won so much that they don't need to do any more impressing, you know, and they can fail 100 times. And then maybe, you know, they're investing in the $100 million projects, $1 billion projects, and they can, you know, be serious about it. But everybody else is just trying to work their way to the top.
It's all just get to the top no matter what, through other people and partnering, basically. So
oh no, I was just gonna say, like, you know, as someone who's really passionate about building and about technology, like, you just need to learn how to navigate that space and understand that it's a tool. It's a tool, and it's a very powerful tool for getting the good work done. Like,
so when you have that idea, like a quick way to accelerate everything is to basically have more people, because more people equals more time being associated with the idea and the development, and obviously we have limited time, and you know, we have other stuff in our lives we have to do. So having a good team that gel well, that have the right culture, and basically their incentives aligned, and just like understand each other, right? You need a team like that, and you can only get that if you basically all have the same time and money to basically live while you work on this. And the biggest contributor is probably a VC for startups, right? As we just discussed. And as soon as you can get that money, you can start getting off the ground running and building towards, you know, the MVP, if you haven't done it already, or to like the next stage.
I guess the last thing I would say is make sure you know who you want to hire before you have the money in hand. So, like, don't get the money and then start racing to fill the space. I would say, like, find people to build alongside you, find co-founders, you know, find an early hire and pay them out of your boot or whatever. But make sure that you know exactly where you want the product to go. You know exactly the skill sets you need to get there, and that you've been vetting someone and getting someone aligned with you before you need to pull the trigger. Because that's, you know, that will be the difference between creating a team around a product and creating a product around a team. Because your early hires will absolutely shape your product forever. And their skill sets, like when you're responsible for 50% of a code base or 50% of a development crew, like, of course, the things you're good at are going to bubble up to the surface, and the things you're bad at are going to be pushed to the side. So you need to make sure you have all your priorities and all your trade-offs totally managed.
Yeah, definitely great insight. And I don't think this is very easy information to get without experience, right? Someone just starting out would have no clue how to do any of this until they eventually have a good idea and somehow build something to attract someone's attention. Then they'll learn about it, right?
Yeah.
So I think this information is incredibly valuable for anybody doing startups, even if you're experienced, if you're not. I'm greatly appreciative of speaking to you for the first time, actually.
Yeah. Nice talking to you. I know you're working on some cool stuff, and yeah, it's really just about like consistency and, believe in yourself, and, beyond that, if need be, know when to quit, and know when, the product market fit isn't there, and, not wasting your own time is extremely, like, it's a valuable skill, because pride will almost always get in the way of productivity. And you just like, I always refer to myself as like a cockroach, it's like, I may not be the most beautiful, well-groomed, wonderful, thing in the world, but by God, I'm going to work harder, and I'm going to get the job done, and I'm going to survive, whatever gets thrown at me. And I mean, I guess just like throwing away ego, being willing to just fucking eat dirt for your team and eat dirt to make things work, I think is, I think that's really truly the key to being successful no matter what, because you're not guaranteed PMF. You're not guaranteed an industry that grows. You're not guaranteed investment. You're not guaranteed anything except what you can guarantee yourself. And if that's already strong enough to beat ass and whip the competition, then you're good, and you're a gangster, and you don't need to worry about anything.
Yeah, it's all just consistency and sacrifice, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Just trying to push yourself to the next stage. But yeah, it's been such a pleasure, man. I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to talk about your experiences, and I hope all the success for Byte Masons and all the future endeavors in the pipeline.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I hope all of your listeners can, start up unicorns and be way more successful than me. And I wish you all the success, and there's plenty of room for all of us. So let's just try our best.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's been an hour, so cool. I will sign off.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and take care.
Yeah, thank you.